with Chaperone and myself. Today we'll be speaking about something we've spoken before, which is problematic games. But in this case, is that why it isn't really a problem that your games are problematic, or should I say, how to deal with problematic games, other than the two extremes of no, it has no problems, or I will, I won't play this game ever again, which are at least I do agree that the latter as being a viable way of tackling if you feel that it's really that problematic to you personally. But there are other ways of dealing as well. So it's not really a happy medium. But before we do that, as always, we're gonna do the news. So let's start with the big news of this week, E3, and everything that was announced. Sort of. Well, we're gonna go do a short rundown. If you were watching E3, you probably know all this stuff. If you weren't, well, that's fine. We start with Nintendo Direct at E3. They announced a couple of characters from Tekken coming to Super Smash Brothers Ultimate as DLC characters, including Kazumi Mishima, which it became memeable immediately because
Yeah, that's another one I saw, I guess. I don't particularly care for Smash Bros, so it just kind of whoop, but oh yeah. Yeah, that's a meme I saw from E3.
Yeah, where Mishima, Kasumi is basically tossing bodies over the cliff, which is based on one of the games that he's in, Tekken games, where he tosses his father after he defeats him off a cliff. So there's that. For the lovers of Life is Strange, the Life is Strange Remaster Collection and Life is Strange True Colors is coming to Nintendo Switch. And basically, Remaster Collection takes the original two games. Well, I'll put quotation marks over games over Life is Strange, so you can see them as well. I think the three of them actually, which is Life is Strange, just Life is Strange, then the prequel and the side. Well, the one which actually has none of the characters on the first game, the first two installment, where they go to Mexico. We have Mario Party Superstars. A very interesting one. Metroid Dread, which is supposed to be sort of Metroid with more horror elements. Monster Hunter Stories 2. WarioWare. Shin Megami Tensei 5. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. A lot of people were excited for that one.
Oh yeah, my timeline blew up with that one.
Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, the first DLC already came out last year. A new Legend of Zelda Game and Watch, which I seen the Super Mario Brothers one. I actually might buy that one. Not Super Mario Brothers, because you got it's easier ways to play Super Mario Brothers without having to buy a Game and Watch. And a Breath of the Wild sequel. There were other studies, such as another big news, Square Enix, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy for PC, including Switch. What else? I'm looking. Xbox and Bethesda, finally, I think they dropped another trailer for Stalker 2. Gameplay trailer. So people who, the revival of the Stalker series. Battlefield 2042. A new Psychonauts 2 footage.
A lot of people seem to be looking forward to that one too.
We got also a Halo Infinite official reveal, multiplayer reveal. I mean, I'm kind of burned out on Halo myself, but it's fine. Diablo 2 Resurrected. Considering that I never got into the remake of. Did they actually remake Diablo? I think they did, or they tried.
The first one, no, I don't think they remade the first one. The second one's more popular, and then they had a Diablo 3.
A follow up to Plague Tale, called Plague Tale Requiem. What else do we have? Age of Empire, Microsoft Flight Simulator, new trailer with, I think I'm not really sure that it has a Top Gun expansion, so you actually can do fighter planes, which is kind of a callback to the original Flight Simulator. The original Flight Simulator had and I think all of them had it at one point or another, a World War I combat game in it. In fact, I remember in the old Comic 64, it was one side was Flight Simulator and the other side was the World War One game. It was pretty simple back in the day, but you know, Randy Pitchford talking about Borderlands the movie. Okay. Ubisoft. The only thing I really care about Ubisoft is Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope dropped in. And I will not probably play any of that because it's Ubisoft and talk about being problematic. I'm not interested. So there's been some interesting drops. I mean, there's more to it. I can. There's a anime Captain Laserhawk dropping from Netflix. I don't know why they did it on A3, but I guess because it's the old connection with the video games. Because it's actually based on Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. It says Far Cry 3 Dragon Blood, but it's actually Blood Dragon. They misspelled that. Captain Laserhawk is a game. It's a TV show within the game. But again, and of course, the big news as well, Elden Ring. The first gameplay trailer for that, sort of like people who are being wanting to see a follow up to Dark Souls, are all excited about that. So I want to start putting the links here as I always do. So that's the link from IGN, and that basically was that. But according to Game Informer, Matt Miller over at Game Informer, he tells us that E3 2021 was a bust. He says basically in a concise way is where the issue, of course, is that the news and reveals that excited us all this past week had little to nothing to do with the event run by the ESA, the actual official show called E3. The event E3 2021 failed to make the grade. And basically saying that most of the stuff that was talk around it, like Nintendo Direct, and so not people being very excited for E3 itself. And yeah. I mean, part of the reason, of course, is that E3, the whole thing about being E3 is that in the expo, people actually go there and are present and cheer, and you have those moments where people, I mean, as much as they try to control the situation, you have your Keanu Reeves moment where it's like, hey, I appreciate you too, and I love you too, right?
You're breathtaking. No, yeah, you're breathtaking. Yeah, you're all breathtaking.
Yeah.
So is E3 was E3 even open?
No. It was all digital. It was completely digital, right? I think they may have had some stage situations, but basically the stage was, part of the presentation.
So there wasn't a very small, like contained niche, like physical expo to go to this year.
No, it was totally digital.
Okay.
And it works. Sometimes it works. I mean, if you're doing something like a Nintendo Direct, then of course it's it's just a series of trailers, nobody talking to the camera. But E3 as an expo, as an exposition of what you want to do, being the crowds and people cheering or booing or whatever, and people making fun of people doing that. That is the thing that drives it. But otherwise, it doesn't really work. For fans of Bayonetta, which include myself, but I haven't played Bayonetta 2 because I don't have a Nintendo console. According to this article from Game Informer, Bayonetta 3 is still existing, it's 6, and is progressing well according to Nintendo. Well, Marcus Stewart on June 18. For precisely the umpteenth year in a row, Nintendo held yet another E-Direct presentation with no mention of Bayonetta 3, despite debuting way back in 2017 Game Awards as a Switch exclusive title. The game has been radio silent in the years since with the only updates coming in form of vague reassurances that was still happening, keeping the hope alive. Nintendo provided another such update during a recent interview with GameSpot. Essentially, the interview says, and you have to go to GameSpot, saying, "Yeah, no, we're still working on it." I mean, I do like the Bayonetta games, at least the one that I played, which was 1 because it got released to PC. But now that it's exclusive to Nintendo, well, no PC releases for you. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, there hasn't been like a Nintendo exclusive released on PC, has there?
Nope.
Yeah, not that I can think of.
Not at all. And that's a shame because I really like Bayonetta, the game. It's over the top. But there you go. More Nintendo news from Game Informer. Nintendo president comments on new Switch hardware by Ben Reeves. Again, January 18th. Rumors has circulated for months and months that Nintendo is working on some kind of updated Switch hardware, a Nintendo Switch Pro that would feature a bigger screen and be capable of outputting in 4K resolution. But 3 has come and gone. Nintendo didn't announce any such device. Is all hope gone that we should see an upgraded Switch before the end of the year? Maybe, or maybe not. Nintendo is keeping all its cards very close to the vest. President of Nintendo America, Doug Bowser, addressed some of the Switch Pro rumors in a recent interview with the Washington Post, saying that we are always looking for technology and how technology can enhance gameplay experiences. It is not technology for technology's sake. It's how specifically can technology enhance a gameplay experience. And then he said that twice. And then there was to apply that technology. Ooh, this sounds like very much corporate speak. So, I mean, there's always been rumors, for instance, last year that, or even the year before, that there's going to be a new Switch because the Switch was always considered a tad underpowered. Perfect for the games that Nintendo is trying to push out there, but for the cross-platform forward, it's, they have to do some. I mean, they put The Witcher and stuff like that, but they really were kind of last generation games that they were sort of put in the Switch. Switch is doing fine. It's broke all records. But people have been wanting more power, and I think that's what's driving these rumors, and not necessarily any rush by. I mean, Nintendo is known for keeping, when they want to, platforms going on for over a decade, especially their more portable stuff, like their Game Boy. I think they only did 3 Game Boys: Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Color, and that was it.
Yeah, unless you want to count the Pocket, but I don't count it.
Yeah. Even though Sony and others, especially Sony, came up with more powerful hardware to compete with them, the PSP series was always more powerful than the Game Boy. But Nintendo was happy to have the Game Boy because it was selling and it was a known quantity. I guess that's what he means by technology for technology's sake. You got to justify the expense of developing.
And of course, Nintendo also, for all their like, I guess, sales figures and stuff, like the Game Boys were made on relatively cheap technology at the time. Like, I know that the original Game Boy was very bulky and used apparently very antiquated like technology in terms of like circuits and of course the screen, the infamous crappy screen. But it was enough to get people. It was a novelty at the time that people got hooked on, and of course, since this technology is cheap and easy to produce, have no problem like knocking them out cheap. Yeah, of course, I'm not entirely sure how much it costs at the time, and I'm sure the console itself to the consumers wasn't cheap.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think also because they were able to transfer a lot of versions of their library to the game, right? You had your Mario Brother games, you had your also Tetris, which came out, which is even by the time was a pretty simple game. Tetris sold. I mean, I think Tetris not by design but by accident became the sort of killer app of the Game Boy, right? So you could play a relatively simple game for hours on end on your Game Boy, and then you move to Dr. Mario or Super Mario Brothers or whatever, and there's MGV has made a lot of episodes about the Nintendo, and he breaks out especially the Game Boy Advance was last week, etc. Game Boy Color, and so I mean there were all the competitions like the Atari Lynx, the portable one, was also actually as powerful, not more powerful. It actually came out about the same time, and it was full color. I remember that you could play something like California games, stuff like that, very well. It looked like at least compatible with and competing with home computers at the time. So but again, cost and library has always been important. And I think Nintendo is hoping that they're only gonna make the Switch when they can make. I also don't think that they don't think they want to alienate all the people that they made backwards compatible with the Switch, right? They're very careful not to make the sort of not GameCube. What was the Wii U mistake, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. Talk about compatibility over time and lack thereof. Rockstar is shutting down GTA Online on PS3 and Xbox 360 in December by Marcus Stewart. Rockstar announces that
It's
it will shut down the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions of its Slide Successful Grand Theft Auto Online. If you're a GTA Online player tearing up Los Santos on those platforms, mark December 16 as the final day as you can log in. The shutdown also means that the stat tracking for those versions again will disappear from the Rockstar Games Social Club. Additionally, Chart Cash cards can only be sold to PS3 and Xbox 360 after December 15. Rockstar FAQ explained that the players will not be able to transfer characters' progress to current versions of GTA Online before the shutdown, since no such feature exists. They also cannot transfer or refund virtual currency goods since those are platform specific. Rockstar says that a smooth shutdown will not impact players ability to Grand Theft Auto 5 story mode or affect their existing progress therein.
but no transferability between. I assume GTA 5 online, or at least like the online components, also on 360 or on Xbox, whatever, and PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
So you would think that it's a network, like, you know, you have to have the same account to log into the same like Sony account or the same Xbox Live account to log in. It's like, oh, just transfer that over there. Nope, not even gonna put that effort.
Because of course what drives GTA Online particularly is what? Microtransactions. And if you can go back and buy all your yachts, cars, planes, locations, missions, etc. on a PC or your Xbox X or Xbox whatever, or PlayStation 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., so much the better, right? I mean, they made the calculus that people on the 360 are, well, first of all, keeping all the hardware going, especially the service, is expensive. Not hugely expensive compared to the kind of money they're making, but still. And so it's like, yeah, these, they're not planning. And probably also one of the things is that the 360 and the PS3, especially the 360, has actually strong modding, relatively modding scene, even though it's very hard to mod the 360, right?
Yeah.
It's very complicated. Well, complicated in the sense, not modding itself, but rather you have to be savvy how to work the 360 with
to
USBs,
essentially
stuff like
to
that.
install like homebrew. Yeah. The thing is too, so I also would assume that they're at the very least they don't have that much of a player base on those consoles compared to the other ones, because otherwise if they still had a large player base and they were still getting money from those transactions on those antiquated consoles, they wouldn't this wouldn't be news, this wouldn't be happening.
That is very true indeed.
So essentially it's also a message to those that haven't like moved on to I guess the more remastered or whatever consoles or versions of the game on more modern consoles. Like, hey, get a move on.
Yep.
go buy our game again and go spend that money again on us if you want to keep playing. Because nothing you made nothing you made and did and that digital world matters now, especially because we're deleting it.
Yeah, which is something we said many times before. You get the transfer, you lose all that virtual tat that you wasted money on. And if you
especially since like again, it's tied to your Xbox Live. I would assume this progress, the progress for the online component is stored on Rockstar servers via your login credentials through whatever network you're using. So it would be absolutely I would assume it wouldn't be that difficult to just, okay, you logged into, a PlayStation 4 now. Here's all your progress and stuff that you've made.
And the assets, I mean, a car is a car. It's just better graphics, maybe slightly better handling. Lumjacker, am I open to sharing some advice? Well, put it on the chat and we'll see what's happening, because we're actually doing the news right now. So you want to join us, more the merrier. If we're having some audio problems, something like that, please let us know so that we can try to fix it, okay? Because we sometimes do have audio problems. I think myself, I'm a little low on the audio volume because I'm using AI to, take to make sure that you don't hear all the ambient noise that's going around. So there's that. Continue on. Talking about Always Online. Back for Blood will require an always online internet connection, and that's terrible. I'm quoting from Kotaku. Left 4 Dead like shooter won't launch with an offline mode by Zach Zweigman. That was yesterday. Back for Blood looks cool. Is a big fan of co-op. I'm a big fan of co-op shooters like Left 4 Dead. Again, I'm quoting. Well, last weekend, developers Turtle Rock Studios confirmed that when B4B launches later this year, will require an internet connection, even if you want to play alone. Now, this is a bad decision. It keeps happening. We discussed this ad nauseum, Maria. Like always online has nothing to do with a better gaming experience and has everything to do with control. They want control. They want control of the experience. They want to sell you microtransactions. They want to do all those things and track your progress, right? How many people you shoot, etc., so they can, tinker with it. And so, yeah, always online. It's gonna be a thing. So, I hate to be the kind of like, well, get used to it, sound like that, because it shouldn't be a thing, but it is.
Yeah, like I just think of like it's just like an unnecessary like extra step to get people to play their games. And of course, there's always situations where you may not always be able to log in online, but you have the free time. Networks go down. Like we were having network issues not too long ago at my place, and I live in like a major city. So it's like, oh, what? I guess I can't play this this game that I paid money for. That's a single player game because my internet's down. I know the most recent like examples, the Outsider or like Outriders, was it from Square Enix, which looked interesting. Like I played the demo and that seemed actually like a pretty good game, but I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna buy it because I really don't like supporting those kind of systems where it's like an always online mechanic. Sure, it has a drop in, drop out multiplayer aspect to it, but what if I don't want to play multiplayer? I still have to be online in order to play this game, which is bull.
Yeah, it's completely necessary. Outside of the only people that actually require that are the developers or the publishers, not the player. Right. It's also DRM and all that, so it's and also you can't even say it's for anti-cheating because if you're playing single player against bots, it doesn't matter if you cheat, right? Unless you can somehow transfer those cheats to multiplayer, which no. And the people who are gonna develop the cheat programs and cheat bots, they do so by a hack version of the game anyway. Which one of the first thing the hackers do is hack the online component so they can do everything else without being spied upon, So, yeah. Now to Battlefield 4 news. Because, talking about servers, so many people are playing Battlefield 4 again that EA is increasing server capacity. Battlefield 4 players will be able to find matches faster now by Zach Zweigman. Over an EA support website, the publisher explained that after the latest Battlefield was revealed E3 2021, that's Battlefield 2042, I believe, had a huge influx of players that hit Battlefield 4, which has led to extended queue and wait times for some folks jumping back in. To help alleviate that EA is increasing server capacity to that game. Battlefield 4 is a good game. I enjoyed it. Okay, that's his opinion. I don't care. Sorry, it's an opinion that it's relevant to the point. Yesterday, playing on the support side, the influx players had led to longer wait times, so some of our servers filled up faster. Here's EA's full message, which I will link to in the description in the chat. So yeah, good for Battlefield, I guess. This is a news, by the way, that you also link to on the Discord server. We do have a Discord server. The channel has one. So I can put the invite for anybody who's interested in joining. Five Nights at Freddy creator Scott Cawthon retires amid controversy. Cawthon stepped down after donation to Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, others were discovered by Ian Walker. Scott Cawthon, the independent developer best known for creator of Five Nights at Freddy series, has announced his retirement from professional game development. I I had a blessed, fulfilling, and rich career. Cawthon wrote on his personal website, I've been shown great kindness and tried to show great kindness in return. I tried to make some good games that the debate ensued, and I witnessed the creation of possibly the most creative, talented fan base on the planet. Around the 7th anniversary of the first game trailer, I realized that I was in my mid-30s when I created the series, and now I'm watching my mid-40s. I realized that I missed a lot of things that I would focus on. Okay, so, typical I'm going to move on with my life kind of situation.
Yep.
The thing is, and Stephanie,
James Stephanie Sterling.
Sterling, sorry, I apologize, pointed out that, okay, you can make your donation, but you're donating to some really questionable people. Problematic people, yes. I mean, I'm not going to speculate on the politics of our audience, right? That would be going a bit too far. But a lot of people, I personally think, obvious reasons, find that problematic. And Stephanie is one of the people that she is trans, or they are trans, actually. They identify as they, them. And, considering bathroom bills and statements made and policy established by the GOP in the United States, where they live, it's like, you're using the money to do kind of things that hurt me. So could you not?
Yeah, and it's so almost every politician is going to have like a give or take. And I'm sure that you can look at like somebody donating to whatever politician, insert politician here, and point out like, oh, you gave them money for this X good cause that you see. Let's just not say that it's negative. It's something that most people would say, that politician's in for a good thing. But oh, look, they support this thing, which is a bad thing that most people would say is a bad thing. I think you could do that with most politicians, but when you donate to multiple politicians that have the same views as each other, especially when it hurts a major minority group in the United States, and also like people of color, they're not very good for people of color either. I think people can extrapolate what you believe in, can make a pretty good assumption, and even if you don't say whatever this guy's name is, I already forgot what his name. Scott, yeah, a Cawthon. Five Nights at Freddy's guy. Regardless of what he believes in, whether he's anti-LGBTQ plus or not, the fact that he's willing to support these people who are very, very outspoken about how anti-LGBTQ plus they are, it speaks volumes. Like what are they like? What other policies could they possibly support that you are so pro that would outweigh like the harm that they do, like the other things that they support? It's like, what is it? Like, please explain. Of course, he doesn't want to explain. He's not going to give a statement because he probably can't. He wants to have his cake and eat it too, and just quietly drift away into the sunset with all his money. And I mean, that's his right to do so. It's his money. You can do whatever he wants. Funny thing is, because I was discussing this with like a fellow Twitch streamer when she brought it up on her stream. She made mention of it, that it's kind of funny because I don't know anything about this franchise other than like the very basics of it. Never played a game of it. But I see a lot of like Rule 34 of it, and a lot of it tends to be very, very gay in some way, very LGBTQ in some way. So it's kind of ironic that I guess like I assume a lot of like LGBTQ like people in the audience identify with like this game. So it's kind of disappointing. Like it goes to show, never meet anybody that you admire. You might admire. Heroes, yeah, don't ever meet your heroes. Like if I have any fans out there that really want to meet me, it's like, maybe not. Don't meet me. That includes me. That includes us.
Talking about problems with success, Among Us developers say they burnt out after Twitch success. Inner Sloth pulled in millions of players, but success was a double-edged sword by Nathan Gracian. It's weird to think about it, but there was a time that was a year ago when Among Us wasn't a household name. When it first launched in 2018, it wasn't a failure exactly, but it seemed destined to live out its days as quietly as a good imposter and without the killing. Then last summer, it blew up thanks to a small handful of popular Twitch streamers who then spread it to every other popular Twitch streamer. Suddenly, all eyes were on Among Us. Then 3-person development team. Wow, there's just 3 people. That explains why they
and
burned
then
out.
and of course the biggest thing too is the social aspect of it is definitely what led to it being blowing up, in my opinion, as well, because we were all on lockdown. So it's a great way to do something with your friends, while maintaining social distance over online.
Yeah. This developers told YouTube interviewer Anthony Padilla was no walk in the park, even as Inner Sloth expanded, albeit slightly and slowly. Team members suffered from burnout. One of the immense expectations suddenly thrust upon them. Among Us going viral was like, okay, this is my life. Inner Sloth artists endure of many additional things. Amy Liu said the pressure to get things done quickly was really high. September to December, we're talking to Xbox, PlayStation. They were going to try to get Among Us on these platforms, which usually takes many months, like half a year to a year. We were like 3 months. We're going to try it. So they basically got burnout, right?
Granted, they kind of put that pressure on themselves, even if it's like the fans demand it. You don't have to listen to your fans, but I understand the pressure at the same time.
Well, the thing is that, one of the things I said before, success breeds success and failure breeds failure, is that it becomes its own train, right? It's like, oh, we're really a success. What do we do so we don't derail this train, right? We got to keep on going. And it becomes a thing, right? It happens to a lot of writers, content creators. It happens in many industries, especially media industries. Where it happens on Twitch all the time. Hey, you were playing Minecraft. Minecraft became the thing. 3 years later, you're still playing Minecraft or Among Us or Battlefields. Like, I'm burned out on this, but if I stop, then I'm gonna lose, 10,000 views or something, whatever number,
Well,
and
I mean, aside from maybe like small little fixes and stuff, like, and maybe adding more maps, like what else can they do? Like, unless they want to just add more maps and stuff, because I don't think they're under any obligation to keep the game going, like, or to add at least more stuff, because the game's gonna keep on. The Steam servers are there, like
yeah,
they're
no, but they
there.
also were going to do
Ports and stuff.
ports, and ports can be
Yeah,
especially.
those are a beast of
Yeah,
themselves.
so you got to get the dev kits. You got to actually figure out how the dev kits work and what you do when you don't do, and another thing is that different companies have different standards for what it means to go gold and stuff like that.
Of course, do they have a publisher, or are they self-published?
I think they're self-published. I mean, it's just a three. It was originally a 3-man team or 3-person team. Emily
Let's
being
see,
the artist.
storefront, store page. Yeah, they're self-published.
Yeah.
So yeah, they at least don't have like a a publisher to crack the whip, like we won that success. Now we got to milk
But
that.
also they don't have a publisher that just gives them a check every 2 weeks covering their salaries. That's also important, right? This is why I think for the average employee working for a publisher is like, you got office space, you got your check, it's a steady job, right? It's a steady.
Yeah, you also don't have that support, because I assume like if Among Us had a publisher, they probably would have like already had like a bunch of other teams like that specialize in ports and stuff already, like backing them up and stuff.
Or simply could have handed over to another publisher, like, oh, you're gonna do a port, okay, we're gonna hand it over to this other team. They do the port, and you just keep supporting Among Us, right?
Yeah,
it has strengths and weaknesses. Working with a publisher mostly can be seen as negative for all the experience that we talked about, but not necessarily entirely negative. Moving on, Baldur's Gate 3 won't leave early access this year for sure. The next update will be based on feedback from players by Jody McGregor 3 days ago. Well, it's been a while since we heard from Larian Studios regarding Baldur's Gate 3. There have been several hotfixes to the in-developer and RPG in the last few months, but the last substantial update was in February when the Druid class was added. Now, in a video interview with GameSpot studio founder Sven Vinke has confirmed that Baldur's Gate 3 won't be leaving early access in 2021. We're really trying to get those games done by next year, he said. It's not going to be released this year for sure. They're currently busy improving what's in early access and completing the rest of the game at the same time. Vinke explained that the next update, whatever it comes, will be one of the changes system elements rather than adding a lot of new ones, so don't expect another new class. For instance, it's an update that focuses on a lot of feedback that we're getting. He said it's more focused on features than it's on the new content. I mean, I'm not surprised because essentially they're making the game in front of everybody, right? That's what early access is all about, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kept the door, the lights on. We'll talk about, developers and all that, and this is another way of doing it. But at the same time, by the time it's finished, people who are played in early access are like, well, we're done, right? So
I mean, the game might change in drastic ways once it comes out of early access, which might warrant a revisit, but a lot of people probably don't.
Yeah.
Especially given how the length of games and investments, and pretty much a lot of video games are like second jobs now.
Yeah.
Actually, the other thing too, now that you mentioned Larian Studios, like I was pretty sure they were also working on another game that was like sort of like a weird sequel to Divinity Original Sin 2, which is like supposed to be like a tactical game. Much like they did put out a tactical game a couple of years ago called Dragon Commander. That's what I was pretty sure they were kind of going for, because it has the characters from the second game, and that they announced that and teased that trailer like with actual gameplay and stuff like years ago, and it never materialized whenever it was supposedly due to release. So I wonder if that sort of became vaporware, because I'm pretty sure it didn't come out at all. Just another one of those things. It's sort of one of the reasons why, like with E3, I just kind of don't really pay that much attention to anymore, because after being in after years of like just eating up like trailers and being a part of the hype machine, it's just, what, like I kind of want something more substantial. Like I'm just kind of tired of how like following all these like games and sneak previews and stuff about like sneak previews and stuff about like games that I'm very interested in, but maybe they don't materialize, or maybe they're like, oh look, coming soon, and it's not till like 5 years later.
Yeah.
It's just that's why this year I haven't really paid that much attention to it. There's people usually bring it to my attention like, hey, look at this game that was brought up on E3. Oh, I might check that out. I'm starting kind of relying more on like my Twitter timelines and people that I follow that share similar interests to me, to kind of curate the better parts, I guess, of like E3s and all these directs that are coming out.
Yeah.
Because especially if you think about it, like E3 is a beast in itself, but now that like everyone is doing their own and kind of having their own like criteria for length and what gets presented, it can be kind of overwhelming, like in terms of like how much gets put out there.
And it fractures, basically the fracturing of the three. So
yes,
yeah, which is part of the. So we've been doing a sort of a death watch on E3, and it seems to be chugging along.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have come out, because I don't see it on Steam either. This Larian game's like, did it come out and just fly under my radar? No, okay, it's not one of those cases.
For people who are looking for cute indie games for free on Epic, Overcooked 2 Chef Co-op Chaos is free on Epic. Re-strengthened 3 days ago. The excellent Chef 'em Up Overcooked 2 is free on Epic Game Store until June 24th. So 4 days from now, at the time of release, PCG called it. This is a cheerful, non-violent, and co-op games that's simple enough for the whole family to enjoy. Also happens to be one of the most intensely stressful games you ever play. So people are looking for that. It's a thing. So let me see what next. This is an interesting one. Psychonauts 2 made with no crunch so far, according to senior producer. Double Fine adds itself to the list of studios that say crunch isn't necessary. Watchword on so far. I hope they keep it that way. Double Fine senior producer Kevin Johnson tweeted earlier today that the upcoming Psychonauts 2 has been made with no crunch. It's fair to be skeptical of such claims. Of no crunch coming from senior individuals at a game studio. Overwork is often revealed by workers, not the people managing them. But it's producer's job to manage the work schedule, and you don't expect Johnson to raise the issue if he knew he could be contradicted or get away with it. Psychonauts has been in development for a while, having been officially announced in 2015, which means it will be in production sometime before then too. Originally planned for 2019 release, delayed twice to 2020. Now its current planned release date of August 2021. I think that's the thing about crunch as well, is like, okay, you're not doing crunch, but your games are taking an awful lot of time to develop. I guess I shouldn't complain.
Yeah.
Yeah, after much we gone after crunch, but maybe we need to keep working at it so that people can, have a fair balance. Not a fair balance between crunch and release times. No, I'm not talking about that. A fair balance between resource allocation and release times. In other words, how can we improve resource allocation so that we get games at a timely fashion?
Yeah,
and without exploiting the workers. Well,
exactly.
too much, I suppose. There's always exploitation under capitalism. So
yeah, and of course, I think everyone has a right to say that, I think everyone has a right to be skeptical about claims like that, because we've heard claims like, oh, big wigs saying, oh yeah, this game was made with no crunch, asterisks. Like, yeah, my team wasn't crunched, but some other team, part of the team that made this huge ass game, across like thousands of employees. Like, yeah, my small team over here had no crunch whatsoever, but that doesn't speak for the rest of the thousands of other employees in the company that worked on the game. Smaller games, I think, smaller studios are probably going to be easier to kind of like hold accountable, but it is something that we should be hearing more from the smaller employees themselves, which usually a lot of them, regardless of how small, the small the studios are, usually has like MDA, like, you're not supposed to talk about, to
the press,
who like the press, or make like statements as an employee about your work and conditions, or speak for the company. Usually, like that part's fine. Like, you shouldn't be representing the company if you're not like part of like the the press department and the spokesperson. But like, it's another one you kind of restrict. Oh yeah, my working at my job sucks.
Yeah. Continuing the whole Twitch ban saga with the sexy times. At least for 6 gendered people, at least. Which is not everybody on Twitch, obviously. Twitch banned streamers for simulated ear licking ASMR in yoga pants by Jody McGregor 19 hours ago. This is the same streamer that got banned and got reinstated with the hot tub, title to it, and now she got banned again. A month ago, Twitch is about to rise to popular hot tub streams by creating a new category: pool, hot tubs, and beaches. Since then, another trend has become a hit in Twitch: streamers simulating the sound of ear licking with ASMR microphones while wearing yoga pants. This all-day specific trend is all over Twitch ASMR channel, and 2 of the streamers who were dominating it, Kathleen Amaranth Siragusa and Janelle Indy Fox Digress, have been banned. People don't know, Kathleen Amaranth Siragusa specifically is also a cosplayer. She has an OnlyFans, etc. So yeah, I mean, she's been in this controversy for quite some time. She was one of the original hot tub streamers that got shadow banned by having advertising, not getting the earnings from advertising. So there's that. It's like, I mean, I
So
don't know. I mean, it's this
ear
is
ear licking can be a sexual thing.
yeah.
Yes. Um so why is it necessary though, the yoga pants? Did she happen to be wearing yoga pants, or was the yoga
It
pants
is clear. I
deliberate?
mean, just like the hot tub thing, which is probably in a bikini. It's very much sensual, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh, look at have people look at this and stuff like that. Again,
So uh,
it's that borderlines, like where we draw the line here.
yeah, so
Uh,
that's the thing for viewers who don't really, aren't streamers, and for people who just don't read like the EULAs and like anything that you're agreeing to in terms of services and stuff, which I've read through, a lot of it, essentially to sum it up, what you're not allowed to do on Twitch is anything that's like, I guess, outwardly meant to be like sexually stimulating in a way, or something like actively, or rather like inactively, either outwardly sexual, or something that's intended to be sexual in a way, even if the thing itself is not sexual. So like, I know a lot of streamers are always very hesitant on certain things that might their audiences might request, like feet. Like,
hmm.
if you put your feet on the desk and stuff, like casually, like, you're not trying to draw any attention, and it's not like made deliberate. I mean, someone might potentially report that as sexual. It really depends on the context. I would certainly hope people look at it. But if you're being like, if you're someone who's like talking about like how like feet turn you on and stuff, and you just, or like your audience is talking about how that's like a sexual turn on, and then you just casually like put your feet up or show your feet off like on the desk, like not wearing any any socks or anything. There you go. That's where it crosses the line, but that line's not always very defined. Of course, if you're like, you accidentally showed porn because you clicked on some link, and it had something explicit that you, even if you didn't mean it, it's like, there's things that you're supposed to do when that happens, when it's definitely not intentional. But yeah, there's the obvious like crossing the line intentionally, but then of course there's also that vagueness of like, how sexual is too sexual. Obviously, whenever the thing is, when you dress up nicely, there's always a sort of an aspect of sexuality to it, because you're trying to look attractive to somebody, even if that's just you. Even if you dress like something that most people would agree is completely unsexy, like someone might find that sexy. And assuming you're probably comfortable and feel appealing to yourself in that kind of way. So it's kind of debatable where that line is,
Yeah, but I
in
think
terms
in
of how
this
sexy
particular
you are.
case is that that her
Intent
brand
but
her
yeah,
brand is her sexiness, right? I mean, you like, oh, she has OnlyFans. I mean, I'm not saying that people who have OnlyFans are
I,
bad in
I'm
any way,
I'm just
but
I'm just trying to picture like, how was this presented to, just from that description. It's like, I have a vague idea, the vaguest idea of like her leaning into like the microphone, doing the like, I don't know,
yeah,
did she have someone, like, was she actually licking someone's ear, or was she just like
no,
trying to simulate
I
the
think it's
like,
simulating. Yeah, simulation.
okay,
Yeah,
so, and then maybe like this, and like leaning in such a way that you can see her butt or something, like,
yeah, or her breast or
yeah.
what have you. I mean,
Well, I say the butt because she was, the yoga pants apparently played a
oh,
part
okay,
in
yeah,
it. So
okay, yes, yeah. I guess so. Yeah, she would be in Japan. I don't know. It's just it's one of those things. But then also you have the crowd where it's like, oh my god, I don't have tens of thousands of streamers because of views and followers because this person's wearing like a low cut blouse. It's like, no, that has nothing to do with your view numbers whatsoever. So
I watch someone who gets like 500 to really high, like high hundreds of
mhm,
viewers, who wears a fucking corn suit. Like,
yeah,
it's this unsexy thing. Well, most people find it unsexy. I find it cute, but
yeah.
uh,
Anyway,
it has nothing to do with that.
yeah, that's true. And final, I found this is sort of a very interesting sort of final note for E3. This is something that PC Gamer brought to my attention. A third of the games at E3 2021 were non-violent, a big increase over 2019.
Hmm.
Unless you consider photography. I was saying photography for some reason. Photography games violent by Ruth Cassidy. There you go. Non-violent games took up twice as much space in the year E3 and surrounding events than in 2019. That's according to a recent report from GameIndustry.biz, which found that 33% of the games shown over the past week and then some weren't violent, up to 17% in 2019. Game Industry analysis defined violence in a particular way, focused on interpersonal aggression acted by the player. For the purpose of their analysis, killing is violent, naturally, but being tasked to solve an unseen murder isn't necessarily. Cartoon violence, such as assembling enemies in Lego Star Wars, counts as violence, as well as slightly more abstracted forms as in strategy games. They look at violence as a player action, in other words, rather than as a theme, which is a video game, so yes, that's how you should define it. There's another way. I think there's a non-violent game, so I attribute to the presence of the Wholesome Direct, which ran from the first time in 2020 when E3 didn't take place. Wholesome games are community doesn't necessarily exclude violence on its own definitions. Sometimes the curious have had to publicly clarify a few times, but the trend towards it goes over 70 games. I actually like that because, well, if you see my channel, I play what we consider most of my games are violent. I'm playing Mass Effect right now, so there you go. We're literally, you can turn people into dust and freeze them to death and explode them with fireballs. But the fact that we have more non-violent video games, I think there is a requirement, there should be a long-time requirement of separating player action from violence. In other words, the player engagement and player action should not exclusively be grab this gun and shoot an alien, zombie, Nazi, monster in the face, or be torn to shreds by an enemy or blown up or what have you, right? So I welcome it. I really do welcome it. I'm still going to play my Dooms and all that, but
I like playing. I like playing different games that don't use violence or just are gory or just fall into that like tripe of like we can't come up with something original in terms of gameplay, so we'll go with violence and combat and stuff because you can have like different conflicts that don't require violence to solve.
Yeah.
Like I like games that I like that are not violent are like a Wonder Song is great. Like you plays a bar who who runs around singing, trying to save the world. I recently was playing Minotaur Hotel. It's a visual novel. A lot of visual novels don't have like violence. They might touch on violence and stuff or dark themes, but not necessarily. You're not doing anything violent other than choosing dialogue options. And so it's nice to see like more games or more studios putting out stuff that's like that tailors to, and not in some way of like trying to push this all like, oh, we gotta make games less violent for the children because video games make people violent kind of way. The whole like fear mongering crap. Like this is because there's a market for it, or they want to do this is their artistic expression to it, or there's a demand for these games like to do something different like this.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, you can be competitive without being overly violent, without shooting someone else in the face or whatever, blowing them up, what have you. So there's that as well, both in single player and multiplayer as well. And then I think leads to what we're trying to talk to you about a couple of minutes. We talk a lot about the news. We actually had to cut some news out because there was so much of it, thanks to E3. Here's the subject. It seems it's going to be difficult to wrap your head around the way I say it, but hopefully I can break it down very quickly. It's okay if your favorite games or the games you like are problematic. What do I mean by that? Not so much a dead horse because I'm playing it right now again. It's still in the news as Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Especially Mass Effect 2 has what I consider quite a bit of problematic elements. Treatment of autistic people and how they are represented in Overlord DLC, which I didn't get the first time I played it. But when somebody pointed out, like, yeah, no, he's a lot of stereotypes and this kind of antiquated vision of what it is to be autistic. The autistic savant, stereotype trope. which in itself can be harmful because a lot of people are on the spectrum and oh boy, you don't look like you can't barely talk to anybody. Like, yeah, that doesn't mean I may not be autistic or have other I mean
Yeah.
neurodivergent, right? The dealing with neurodivergent people, again, something that is a bit problematic. Uh and also, what I made an entire video about Jacob Taylor and how racist not the character himself is, but rather his backstory, loyalty mission, especially related to his father and all the stereotypes and tropes therein. Jack and the ironically abusive use of sexual abuse and rape for in her backstory to make her what I call drama for your trauma for your drama, right? Which is like, let's make it as traumatic as possible so that we can feel, oh my god, the drama, the pathos or the pathos, right? And it's like, yeah, having a child be kidnapped literally from his mother's womb and raised by abusive scientists who were testing, to make her turn it into a weapon, right? In every sense, well, and kidnap and dealing with other slaves
Yeah.
and
And
others
yeah,
and
yeah,
killing them
and
en masse.
only to escape said facility and immediately get abducted by slavers and stuff that immediately rape her as a child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's so I mean that mission by itself, all that stuff, it's pretty horrible. There's no, I mean, it's not to say that sexual assault is less or more horrible than anything else. It's like it was completely necessary. I mean, I think anybody would be messed up if you were literally
Uh,
experimenting upon and tortured as a child. Like literally, there's a line that well delivered by the voice actress. Uh, outside my window was my entire world. She didn't know any better, right?
yeah.
So, there's no need for that. Um, and some other stuff, and many games have that. And I think most, and I'll be careful not to put this at a happy medium, by the way. Most of the reactions to when a game is problematic or somebody points out it's problematic is one or two things. I will not touch this game ever again because it is problematic. I hate it, which I don't consider to be completely invalid, but I'm going to put an asterisk on that. And then the one that I think do consider to be invalidates for me is, oh, there's another thing as a problematic game, right? It's like, oh, this game is not problematic for reasons, right? Which, and the reason why I find it invalid is because it cuts down and shuts down the conversation. You cannot make
Me
proper
criticism.
analysis, right? Finding that what the art that you love is problematic is a question of awareness, and it's a question of critique, and ultimately it is hoping that what you really should want is for the next product, the next book, the next movie, and certainly video games, which always video games have a problem with dealing with problematic subjects, in part because of the illusion of control, right? How much the player is in charge of this. And often when you talk about sexual assault and torture and all that stuff, either the player can't do anything about it because it already has happened, and maybe they may have a revenge fantasy, something like that, or it happens to them, Far Cry, and deliberately taking action away from the player, which is, or in the case of say GTA 5, forces the player into a situation like torture, right, to create this pathos, right, this trauma for your drama, which ultimately feels fake and hollow, right? It's very manipulative. It almost can be seen as almost as an inducement of trauma itself, right? And also people, a game that is not, I don't think, not in this aspect, I don't think it's problematic, but it can, shows an personal example of how something can affect you in a way that is unexpected. I suffer from, I said this before, I suffer from more vertigo, particularly virtual vertigo. So I can actually, when I'm in a game where it has a particular height, I can actually feel actual fear to the point of being paralyzing. So if you play Dark Souls, for example, the original game, Dark Souls, you probably think you have a one area that I'm talking about, and yes, you're right, it was pretty tough on me.
Yeah,
So
don't ever play a Mirror's Edge game.
yeah, no. In fact, the way I usually deal with it is I get tired of it and I sort of throw my character into the void. I deliberately kill myself so I can just release that tension that builds up in me. Imagine if you're somebody who is a victim of sexual assault, of parental abuse, of kidnapping, violent crime, etc. Knowing that these things are there and being willing to engage with those things in an honest manner is important. It's extremely important.
Yeah, but not in some sort of like glorified way that some games tend to deal it. Like in the case of Jack, it's like, oh, ho, ho, your romance, you're fixing her. Kind of like it sort of treats it like that. Like, you're fixing her, Shepherd. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Uh,
Especially the romance scene is kind of, it's so creepy with her crying. It's like, no.
and also, I think it's very important to understand that mistakes will be made, right? That the intention might be very good, right? They want to, for example, showcase that this is a violent world that is not, it's not puppies and roses everywhere. True, I get that, but mistakes can be made. So your games have to be allowed to be problematic for the only reason that if they self sanitize too much, they will never deal with it. Not every game has to deal with these subjects, but you'll never learn if you don't try and then get critique for it and absorb that critique and deal with that critique. I think going BioWare example, I think Dragon Age Inquisition shows a lot of the growth in many ways. I mean, they have some, they make some other mistakes, right? But
Yeah.
they shows that the evolution, right, from the first game, which was all about blood. It was like, oh, well, this game, everybody's covered in blood. It's a very violent game and stuff like that. And like, it's still there. I mean, you still get covered in blood in all those games. A feature of Dragon Age. It could be called Blood Age if they ever change their minds, or some other game probably has that that title by now. But it's a thing where you can learn from it, how to deal with relationships, for example, how to other characters, and so it's important. And I made a huge mistake, and I blanked this out. Yeah, I
Oops.
did. So you're gonna hear audio. Well, we're about to close anyway. We're close to
Yeah.
to finishing.
And that's not to say that Inquisition is perfect, or
No.
the growth that they show is they led to perfection. No, even if someone gets close to it, there's always room for improvement when it comes to learning about stuff and making games less problematic. And also, we should probably throw in that just because some game has some aspects of like things that are problematic, and you still like the game, does not make you a bad person. Yeah,
Exactly.
critiquing a game that you really like is not a critique or an attack on you as a person.
Again, that we have to be careful not to fall into the idea of good person, good thing, or good game in this case. Good game, good person, right? Oh, I'm a good person because I like good games, and those games I'm good because I'm a good person, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry, we have to cut this short because
Yeah.
it was a mistake on my part, and we'll have to restart the whole thing if we do this. But suffice it to say that it's okay your games are problematic as long as you're willing to engage with those problems, accept the dimensions of those problems, know that not everybody's going to react to it the way you do for various reasons, and ultimately that the reason for critique is to get a better product at the end of the day, right? Maybe this game has some problems next time around, it doesn't, and they can go to new routes. So yeah. So, Chepamon, audio only. Tell us where can we find you?
You can find me at Chapelmon pretty much anywhere. I am Chapelmon underscore on here on Twitch and on Twitter, but most of my content lives over on YouTube. Just search Chapelmon and you'll find me.
And you can find me here, of course, playing during the week. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. We're now on Mass Effect 3. We're actually on the other side of the Krogan mission, of the Tuchanka mission. So we're speeding through the ending. We should be recruiting Tally this week, probably tomorrow evening. And so yeah, we're gonna be for the Tallymancers. We're gonna have Tally back and see what happens. Although yes, my character Roma Sierra, so there's that. So doing a lot of character stuff, and we're gonna do all the DLC. I thought I was gonna do the DLC after I was done with the game, but the game keeps prompting me for the DLC. Probably will do with that. And if you want some in-depth critique of stuff like, I don't know, Overlord, Leviathan DLC and ooh, uh, Citadel DLC. Yeah, you're about to get it. So thank you already for coming. And as always, we'll see you when we see you. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.